What's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly dose of your rundown. Join in with me as always, my brother from another, my co-host all the way from the O, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Another week in the books. A lot of things going on, a lot of things happening. No more hand claps, please. Welcome back into the rundown. We got a bunch of things that we gotta touch on in this last week. The West is crazy in the NBA. The East is getting crazy in the NBA. Of course, my heart was broken in the World Baseball Classic. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. But we don't got to talk about that one. And NFL free agency has been a doozy. Now, here on this show, you know, we talk a lot about the national landscape of things, but specifically us being 2 New Yorkers and Giants fans, we also like to really harp on the Giants and the Jets a little more than anything else. And what the Giants have done in the last week since free agency kind of made its start was they've been spenders. You know, this is still a rebuild. We've kind of all agreed with that, but they have been spenders, and spenders to the point it's been a little bit surprising how much they've spent. They spent most of their money trying to bring guys back. Jihad Ward is back. Darius Slayton is back. A couple other more names that have also decided to remain as well. We're still waiting to hear what goes on with Leonard Williams. We said last show that they signed Okereke from the Indianapolis Colts. They've got a meeting with the Rams defensive lineman. I think that might have taken place already. So help is on the way. Like Shannon Sharp and Tyreek Hill once said, help is on the way. Help is on the way. One move that I think was huge for the Giants. You know, last week, of course, the biggest thing was trading for Darren Waller from the Raiders. Basically, you flip Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller using that pick that you got back from the Chiefs in the Toney trade. But kind of underrated. Anybody here who's a college football fan, especially the last couple years, when you watch Ohio State's offense, you know that they've got some pretty good quarterbacks over there. They play with speed, and the receivers that come out of Ohio State year in and year out are top notch. Top notch. One of those receivers who actually played with Dwayne Haskins was Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell was drafted by the Colts, had a couple of injury-riddled seasons, and had a career year last year for the Indianapolis Colts in his first full healthy season, about 695 yards, I believe. It's a very good season. He's a guy that plays with a lot of speed, something that you really need in an offense like what the Giants and Brian Daboll are kind of running over there. I like this move a lot. I think if he can stay healthy, it's a 2-year deal, which is what they've been doing a lot lately, is kind of getting these guys on these short-term prove-it deals, working out for them, maybe works out for the player in the long term, whether it's with the Giants or another team. But just kind of looking at this offense now, when you got tight ends like Lawrence Cager, we said Darren Waller, Bellinger, you also have Saquon Barkley returning. The whole running back room is pretty much returning. Then you got Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, and you add Paris Campbell. They also had that dude Smith from the Jets, who's probably going to be more of a return guy this year. But it's a lot of speed over there. You know, I felt like the Giants did not have a great core group of receivers, not household names and things like that. They were kind of able to get the most out of those guys. But I think a lot opens up when you add a guy who really can be a playmaker like Paris Campbell is. So I'm very excited for this Giants season. You know, people, like we said, we still kind of consider it a rebuild, but yet it's a team that's coming off a divisional round loss in the playoffs and seems to have gotten better on offense, at least just a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, it was like a see what you got last year. So they try to they saw what they had, and they're trying to bring a lot of those pieces back and then add on to it. So obviously, it was maybe a overachieving year for them last year. I think just like has been with them for the last couple of years, guys have to stay healthy, and then we got to see what Daniel Jones can bring to the table. As much as we got on Daniel Jones about not being, what he can and can't do, a lot of his weapons wasn't just healthy for him. So he kind of didn't have a full roster of his weapons,
Wendell Robinson.
Wendell Robinson got hurt. Shepard got hurt. I kept getting Slayton and Shepard confused for a second. But Shepard got hurt. So, people were just getting hurt and going down. So I think they surrounded him with more weapons, and he got his money. And we kind of talked about it last week about it's time for him to kind of put up or shut up. But those guys have to stay healthy. And if those guys can stay healthy, then they should be able to have more firepower than they had last year. But I think Dable has shown that, honestly, no matter who goes out there, they expect to kind of win and play hard. But I think it all starts with health.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I thought Wendell Robinson was coming on a ton for the Giants before he tore his ACL, and he's somebody I feel like can really do something in this offense. Like, he's only just starting to scratch the surface, and that could be scary. Shep, we all like Shep. I'm glad to see he's back. They value the leadership that he brings in the locker room. I'm hoping that he can still be some type of resemblance of himself while he's playing with the Giants. But Shep is a homegrown guy, draft pick for the Giants under Jerry Reese, and just definitely happy to have those guys back over there. So we'll definitely see, man. I think that there's still some moves that they're trying to make. Like we said, they've got a meeting with one of the Rams defensive linemen moving forward. Have heard that Odell Beckham Jr. may not be done with the Giants. About a few days ago, we were told that the Giants are out of that. Pat Leonard comes out and says that there still might be something to happen. We'll figure it out. We'll see what goes on, but definitely a lot of good things happening. I think Joe Shane is showing his worth right now. It was the Brian Daboll show from the end of August to early February. And now Joe Shane is coming out and making his medal right now. So a lot of good things to definitely see moving forward coming out of East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yeah, we talked about this when Gettleman was still there, that we needed a GM and a coach that can kind of get on the same page and get things moving. So I think those two are kind of exactly what Giants fans were asking for, and both of them are giving us their money's worth, and we're getting our money's worth with them. So continue to let them do what they do, and it seems like the Giants will be in good hands going forward. So just got to believe in and trust in them, and let them keep making their moves.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go ahead and move into the NBA now. We got something that you definitely got a chance to see close hand, Kay. Los Angeles Clippers were on a 4-game win streak, looking for 5 when they traveled to Orlando to play against the Orlando Magic, and kind of laid a stinker out there. There was no Kawhi Leonard. He wasn't going to play on the back-to-back, or at least the first game of the back-to-back, and a lot of turnovers, just, ugly display of basketball there from those guys. I know Russ specifically was not happy with his own performance. It was very giddy to get things out of the way with Portland last night. So, luckily for the Clippers, Golden State, Minnesota, and I think Memphis all lost, and that kind of kept the Clippers afloat. They were able to get a win last night against Portland. Portland's just not a great defensive team, which they were able to kind of take control of. It also helps when Kawhi Leonard is on the floor with those guys. And then I think one of the biggest things that I want to talk about when it comes to this Clippers team, because like I said last show, I am starting to become a believer in this team. I think health is the biggest thing here. I feel like we both agree on this. A lot of people agree on this. If this team can stay healthy, they can absolutely make a run. We're starting to see Ty Lue adjust his lineups a little bit. It seems like he's got things figured out, which we said we will be expecting soon. And Kay, you shared something very interesting that I noticed today. Russell Westbrook leads the team in assists, and he's only for the year, and he's only played 11 games with the Clippers.
Yeah, I think that this goes to show that they haven't really had a maybe a true point guard out there. Obviously, they had Reggie Jackson and John Wall, and it's kind of surprising because I expect John Wall to do those same type of things, but obviously coming off not playing for a year, so he had to probably still get his legs under him. So, and Reggie Jackson has never been the prototypical point guard. He's been more of like a scoring guard. I think Russ is obviously someone that's been a high assist guy multiple times in his career, led the league in assists a few times. So him coming in like that, still a little shocking just because obviously I knew that it was bad, but I know it was kind of that bad. And I know PG was playing point guard a lot for them, so that's the thing. But yeah, shout out to Russ, obviously over there doing things that we know that he can do and really helping them share the ball over there. And like you said with Kawhi, I think just watching them over the last couple of games since Russ has been there, I think Kawhi helps them kind of neutralize some of the things defense try to throw at them. He's able to make tough shots when they're sending doubles. He's able to make the right pass and do things like that. I've seen him be able to figure things out when teams are doing that funky defense that they play when Russ is out there on the court. And I think that helps a lot. And obviously Russ, after being there for a little while, getting his feet under him and figuring out where he can attack in those points and stuff helps a lot too. But I think Kawhi really helps them in those situations where, like, you can give him the ball on the corner, and whether they send 2 or 3 or play whatever funky defense that they're going to do, he's probably going to get you a good bucket or something out of it. So I think that's where he really helps them, and obviously defense too and things like that. But I think that's where Kawhi, when he's not on the court, it's not as much as like tough shots being made like that. It's kind of more put on PG to kind of figure that thing out. And I think Kawhi has just been kind of the master of that. So I think that's where Kawhi really helps them.
I think the three of them together is just like the perfect mix, to be honest with you, because we said all year even the last 2 years, the biggest thing that this team needed, it's like they have everything, but they do not have an orchestrator. They don't have a true point guard to run this offense and get it where it needs to be. We watched that first game that they played, and Russ completely changed how the offense was flowing. They were fast. They had to obviously get adjusted to how fast they were going. He was able to kind of change the tempo from fast back to slow it down and everything of all that. Aside from that, I think I am tired of this Russell Westbrook slander. I'm tired of it. I hear, the most magnified Russell Westbrook has been in his whole career was this stint with the Los Angeles Lakers. It's the Lakers, number one, and then you got to play against one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sports figure in the world today, right? So that kind of magnifies you a bit, where it's like every time something goes wrong, we're looking at you. We've already got people coming at you for these things, but now you're on the grandest stage. So we're gonna blame you pretty much every time it goes. That's honestly how I look at it. Because if you look at how things went with the Los Angeles Lakers, is Russ devoid of blame for that not working out? Of course not. He didn't always play his best. There was turnovers there. But I'll also say, if you look at his tenure with the Lakers, he was sold on playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They did not play too many games together, especially in that first year. He completely bought in, came off the bench. You wanted him to kind of be the anchor for that second unit. Who was he playing with on that second unit for him to kind of to bring up, right? And he goes to the Los Angeles Clippers. I mean, we talked about this on last show last week. I don't know what else you can expect. You literally can't blame the losses on him. There's a lot of games that he wasn't playing in the fourth quarter. I think the last 2 games he closed out the fourth quarter. But aside from that, he's literally done his job. They didn't ask him to come in and be a scorer. They asked him to come in and run the offense. And that's exactly what he's done. He's leading the team in assists, like we've said. He's the only point guard. I just saw this last night. He's the only point guard that's really been able to find Ivica Zubac in the post better than Reggie or John Wall could, or any other point guard that they brought in previous, which is definitely good to see. And then we know exactly what him and Paul George can do. They kind of got back together and went right where they left off. So, I gotta tell y'all, man, regardless of whether this Clippers thing works out, stop hate. You got to cut it out. I can't get with any of it, especially at this point where it's just not logical talking.
Right, and those first couple games, they were all just trying to figure out how to play together. I think after that, 0-5 start, they probably been like 5-1. And Kawhi didn't play that one game against the Magic that they lost, so they're starting to get their footing together. Those first couple games were just trying to understand each other and learn the right spots, and then figuring out, like I said, that funky defense that people play when Russ is on the court. So they're figuring all that out. They're playing well, so I think I wouldn't even worry about those 5 games from now. Like I was saying, like last week, it's all about building towards the playoffs and getting in the right spots, and it seems like they're getting there. So it doesn't matter if you start off 0-5 with him. If you're clicking at the right time, especially around this time before the playoffs start, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. I'm putting it out there, man. I'm a believer. I think that they can do it. I don't want to curse y'all, but I believe that this is we've talked a lot about how Russ, people like to bring up the guys that he's played with, and then we'll be quick to point out those. Did you really think that those teams are going to beat the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant? Did you really think that Washington Wizards team was supposed to make a run with him and Bradley Beal and a bunch of role players against a Boston Celtics team like that, or anything else? I really firmly believe that this is the best team that he's been on in his entire career. To me, this is the best chance. Not that it's going to happen, but this is realistic. You can point this out as the best chance that he's had at winning a championship. And he's done everything right. If they pull it off, I will be quick to call out every single person that says that he can't contribute to winning basketball.
I think, it's been his best chance in a while. Obviously, those Thunder teams all had chances, but it's been his best chance in a while. Obviously, the Lakers didn't do anything. The Wizards didn't really do anything, and that Rockets team maybe had the chance, but it's probably his best real chance in a while. So obviously, playoffs are all about matchups. Right now, seems they could be matched up with the Suns, which could be a problem within itself. So playoffs are all about matchups. So we see where the chips fall and see how far they can take it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Let's go ahead and move on to some other hoops news that has absolutely been driving the airwaves across the Empire State. Gotta play my theme music, you know what I'm saying? I can't talk about this team without playing this theme music.
We can't hear it. I can't hear it.
Oh, well, that stinks. Anyway, you guys missed the Go New York, Go New York, Go. But indeed, it is Go New York, Go New York, Go. They have now taken sole possession of the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. No play-in for the New York Knicks as far as it goes so far this time around. Huge win against the Denver Nuggets. Uncle Tone was actually in attendance for that game. I heard he was wilding.
I can imagine.
He was enjoying himself, but this Knicks team needs Jalen Brunson. We've kind of come on here and talked a little bit about how we didn't agree with the finances that they gave his way because we felt like you're overpaying for a guy his caliber. I love Jalen Brunson's game. I just didn't think he was worth the price tag. But I will say this: when you have a value in a guy and you understand the value that he brings to you, sometimes you just can't put a price tag on it. And this Knicks team with Jalen Brunson has looked a heck of a lot different than it did last year. You talk about needing a point guard and having point guard play. He's been everything for this team. He's been able to he's completely transformed Randall's career as a Knick. People aren't nearly bashing Randall as much as they used to because he doesn't give you reason to. He's not as dominant on the ball with Brunson as his point guard. And Brunson puts him in positions to be successful off the ball. So there's that, They were able to get past what was the number one seed in the Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets, and we'll get into them in a second. But if you look at how things are going for the New York Knicks, you gotta, especially if you're a Knicks fan, you gotta be happy with this outcome right now. You're in fifth place, might be able to host a playoff game in Madison Square Garden. It's it's gonna get serious in there, and as long they could be a second round team as long as they don't have to run into one of those perennial powers.
Right. I think, like you said, a lot of people thought Jalen Brunson was kind of overpaid in the summer, but I think it just he showed his value and he showed that that money is worth it. I think it also showed what a lot of Knicks fans were talking about last year and kind of what you just brought up. They needed to get a point guard in there to get the ball out of Randle's hand as much for him to be creating for others and things like that. So I think that really helped them going forward. Obviously, they're playing super well right now, like you said, and the chance to avoid the play-in. And they'll match up with the Cavs, which could be a problem within itself if they stay where they're at right now. So it'll be interesting. Like I see, they're clicking right now. I was saying it's all about clicking at the right times, but it'll be interesting to see if it does end up being that 4 or 5 matchup with the Cavs. Obviously, they had a chance to get Donovan Mitchell, and maybe he'll be motivated. Obviously, being from New York, going to play a couple games in the Garden, playoff games in the Garden, things like that. But I think that obviously they're playing hard, typical Tibbs team. I think Josh Hart has been a very welcome add to them, someone that's going to help them come playoff times, guarding guys like Donovan Mitchell and Garland and things like that. So it seems like that's where that matchup is going to be right now. So I think, like you said, they should try to strive for that maybe home court advantage and then see where they can kind of take it from there. But they're clicking at the right time. Big win versus the Nuggets, a couple big wins coming up. So let's see how far they take it. Obviously, we don't want to jump the gun like we did a few years ago, screaming the Knicks are back, and we know how that ended. So we'll say the Knicks are on their way, the bus is going, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs this time. Obviously, there was a lot of those guys first time being in the playoffs. R.J. Barrett, things like that. So the guys got experience now. Brunson's coming off a conference finals last year with the Mavs, so they got some more experience going to this playoffs than maybe they had last year. I mean, a few years ago. So hopefully, looking for a better outcome.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Kay, you ready for this? If it's the Knicks and the Cavs in a 4 and 5 matchup, I'm gonna hit y'all with the Charles Barkley. I guarantee that is a 7-game series. 7-game series. And I would not be surprised if Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell are having games where they're just trading scores, going back and forth, battling with each other.
I could see it happen, but I think I would go Cavs in 6. I think I see Mitchell going off. I just can't see him not going to the Garden and going off in the Garden.
I think he will. Stars do that. They come to Madison Square Garden and they set records. But I don't know, man. This Knicks team, they're still the Knicks, but they're not the mom. I'm not gonna say they're back. But they're not your typical mom and pop Knicks from the last 20 years.
They're going in the right direction. They're looking better. I still got I'll probably take the Cavs in 6.
I'm not picking who's going to win the game. All I'm going to say is I could see this thing going 7. I could see it going 7. I kind of want it to go 7. I think that these two teams kind of match up well against each other at full strength. Should the Cavs win? Yes. I think the Cavs are solid in just about every spot from their starting 5 to their bench. But the Knicks are also solid as well. Deuce McBride came out the other night with no Jalen Brunson, and he played a heck of a game. You still got Quentin Grimes over there doing his thing. R.J. Barrett's going to do what he does. Jalen Brunson's pretty much transformed this whole team. You know, you got a good center in Mitchell Robinson. You got a nice backup quality center. They've got the pieces to be able to compete.
Right. I just think that Donovan Mitchell would be the difference in there, and maybe kind of show them why maybe they should have traded for him. So it'll be a good series. Let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, most def, man. I'm definitely not mad at that one at all. And you know, we talked about the Knicks a little bit. I think one thing that I want to talk about, we were kind of mentioning this a lot when we got to the questions in the live chat last time, was this Denver Nuggets team who has just kind of been falling. They've been able to stay afloat with some wins, but things are not looking good in Denver right now. You know, they were able to get a win in Brooklyn, but you got a couple of losses piling up. You're starting to lose traction in the West. And then it kind of leads me to my MVP conversation. Why are so many people hell-bent on crowning Nikola Jokic the league MVP when he can't even keep his team afloat? You know, especially where the pedestal that he's being held to, you have never seen a 3-time MVP in this league not win a 3-time back-to-back MVP not win a championship. So that's one. And then two, you can't tell me he doesn't have the pieces to compete. Jamal Murray's back. You know, Michael Porter Jr. is still there, back from his back injury. They've got quality players over there. They've got quality coaching. So exactly what is the disconnect right now? If you're a true title contender, you should not be going through this, especially this deep into the season.
Right. I wouldn't say that he can't hold his team afloat. I think last year he's proved that he can hold them afloat when half of those guys were out. I think just that sometimes teams just go through up and downs. Obviously, we might get into the Celtics a little later too. They're going through like some of the same things. Team just have up and downs throughout the season and things. And I think they're just hitting a rough stretch right now. It's right before the playoffs. They're the number one seed. It doesn't really seem like anybody's going to catch them out there in the West. So they may have been taking their foot off the gas a little bit right before the playoffs start. Obviously, a couple of tough matchups and things like that. But they took their foot off the gas a little bit when the playoffs start because the playoffs are kind of around the corner. But as far as the MVP talk, I think, like you said, maybe they kind of crowned it to him too early. I think when we talked about it on here last week or a few weeks ago, I said that if Joel Embiid can get that second seed and kind of pass Boston with the way he has been playing, I think he deserves it, especially after maybe it being taken away from him the last couple of years. So they got the second seed because Boston is slipping a little bit. So if they can hold on to that second seed, I think Joel Embiid deserves it. So it not unless people are really just like stuck on giving it to Jokic, but I think with them dropping a little bit and the Sixers extending, I think that really pushes Joel Embiid to the forefront of that conversation now.
Chuck, guarantee it. Drew Marshall. Guarantee. Guarantee. 4-zip.
I'm with Chuck. I think this is the year. This is the year, man. You can't deny Joel Embiid that anymore. And I agree with you from what you said last show. He definitely could have and should have got at least one of those MVPs the last 2 years. It's time. He's been showing out nonstop. I keep harping on the head-to-head matchup that they had the last time they played each other, where he was just all over Jokic's head. So I'm 100% on board with you on that. When we talk about the Celtics, it's been crazy that they've been falling back so much. It's all been after the coach got his money, you know, which is a little bit odd. It's like one of those things we talk a lot about players in that contract year. You know, they go all out, they get their money, and then they kind of come back down to earth. We're looking at the Celtics, and we're just like, man, you know, they don't need what's his face anymore. They got my man right here. He can coach his team just fine, right? And then a lot of people went at the Celtics for giving him that deal so early instead of just letting him play on that interim tag. And ever since he's gotten that deal, things have kind of started to fall apart. Do I think the Celtics are going to get it back together? Yes, because this is a team that's been to what, 3-4 conference finals, an NBA finals appearance now last year, and these guys can figure it out. I think the world of Jaylen Brown. I think the world of Jason Tatum. Time Wizard, even though he's hurt again. They got the pieces to make it work. Malcolm Brogdon is coming off the bench. They got the pieces to make it work. It's a tough slide that I do think is going to hurt them in the playoffs because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think that they're going to get into the top two at this point. I think Philly is clicking on all cylinders as well as Milwaukee, and that's with at least Milwaukee anyway still not at full strength. But, and this is kind of what we were talking about last show. We said that 2-3 matchup. If Philly can, which I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, but if Philly can avoid that 2-3 matchup, then they might be able to get over the hump.
Right. I think I don't think Philly will catch the 1 seed though. I think the Bucks are kind of locked that up. So I think Boston definitely played themselves out of that. I think the problem is now they also played themselves. They're working on playing themselves out of the 2nd seed, so they're going to be in a battle for that now. And I feel like if Philly gets it, it puts them in a real tight situation to have to go. And obviously they can do it, like you said, the finals last year, conference final a couple times since they've been together. But I think it's going to be real tough for them to come out the East going through having to play the semifinals and then the conference finals with no home court advantage, and then maybe the NBA finals with no home court advantage. So if you think about the ultimate goal of the NBA finals, I think it'd be tough for them to do that. So they're kind of playing themselves into a real bad situation, and just getting out the East is going to be tough for them because if you battle with the Philly, if you beat them in 7, then you got the Bucks waiting for you, probably well rested. And that'd be tough. And then, like I said, you get to the finals, probably not home court advantage. So I think there's slippage. The way they started the season, it looked like they had a lot of space between everybody, but some real bad losses recently. Won the Rockets and things like that. I think they're really playing themselves into a bad situation. So they kind of have to pick it up. And even still, if they pick it up, they still might not get the 2nd seed. So we'll see how it goes for them. And with how well they started off the season, it's kind of tough to see them kind of end it this way because it's the season that they have and is going to be a little overlooked when they end up as the 3 seed and if they don't get out the semifinals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that 2-3 seed, we're all watching it. I think that's going to be the cream of the crop in the East. That's the battle. We were just talking about a 7-game series before. That's definitely one that could go 7, especially, I wouldn't be mad as a basketball fan if Philly and Boston had to meet up. Those teams have kind of been clashing with each other the last couple years as those up-and-comers. Boston had their number a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how things shake out in the East moving forward, especially when we got about a week and a half left of the season before the playoffs start anyway.
Yeah, we got about like 2 weeks. I think we're under 15 games at this point, so like it's the time to really lock in, and really this is where they should be playing their best, and it seems like they're not that tip-top shape. So you'd be a little worried about them right now, and like I said, they kind of played themselves where they're going to be fighting now for seeding, which means they'll probably play maybe to the last day of the season, so they're going to maybe miss out on some rest too. So we'll see how it plays out for them, but they're in a real tough spot, and if you look at the way their season started, you probably didn't expect this, so they could be going into Philly for a second-round matchup.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be what I've got marked on my calendars. In other news, obviously we talked about March Madness going on. Iona was knocked out, not able to make the Sweet 16. But Rick Pitino today has accepted, or at least in principle agreed to terms, to be the next head coach of St. John's University. I got to throw a bomb on that one. Because at the end of the day, if you know New York City basketball, St. John's is the school that represents the 5 boroughs of New York at the end of the day. And Rick Pitino, in my opinion, is probably the only guy that can get St. John's back to where they need to be.
Yeah, I definitely could see what you're saying. Obviously, the things he done at Louisville and Iona, and obviously his just story history. If you think about it, he's kind of one of the last coaches here. Coach K is gone, Boeheim's gone, and things like that. So I think, like you said, he should hit the ground running hard with recruiting New York City players, guards, and things like that. And it's not nothing he hasn't done before, like getting Donovan Mitchell to go up to Louisville and things like that. So I think his presence, his just his history and kind of what he knows, he can really turn that around, and just being able to recruit and get a lot of those New York guys to stay home and really turn that around when they know they have a chance to kind of still make it to the NBA. So I think he'll hit the ground running hard, and I think you'll see a lot of more maybe New York City people stay home, and a lot of them that's hitting the transfer market maybe think about coming back home and just turn that thing around. You think about those guys playing the Garden a lot of times, so a lot of New York people are gonna love for that opportunity with a coach like that. So I definitely see him turning this thing around.
Former assistant at Syracuse, back in the day, 70s, back. He was one of Boeheim's first assistants and his main recruiter. So he's been doing this thing for a long time. I think if you're a New York, you don't even got to be a St. John's fan. If you are a New York City basketball fan, you got to be loving this. I cannot wait to see what goes on here moving forward. I'm excited. I'm not even a St. John's fan. I'm a Syracuse basketball fan, but it's even look what he did with Iona. I fully expect Rick Pitino to hit the ground running with this thing. Maybe not next year, but the year after, expect St. John's to make some noise.
Yeah, but even with the transfer portal, kids can transfer right now and be eligible to play next season. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to get a lot of guys to change their mind and come there in the next season. So, like you said, maybe not 100% this season, but the season after that probably for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if this season with how the transfer portal is and how it's been going.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one too. It was a light news week this week, man. So that's kind of pretty much all, at least on this front. Kay, you got anything for him before we get out of here?
No, I guess obviously the NCAA tournament happened. We'll shout out all the teams that made it to the Sweet 16. Shout out to UM, big win last night against Indiana. A couple big upsets. Number one's going down already in both women's and men's tournaments. So you guys make sure y'all tune in this coming week for the Sweet 16. There's some great games. So make sure y'all tune in, man. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of upsets, a couple more Cinderella stories we see around there. So yeah, man, just give the NCAA tournament a shout out. Obviously, this is March Madness and it's that time, so I think we'd be wrong to leave here without giving it a shout out. So shout out to what was it, FDU? They called for Purdue. They said they wanted Purdue, and they took down Purdue. So shout out to them, man. Just shout out to NCAA tournament, man. Good basketball. Y'all make sure y'all tune in.
They weren't even supposed to make the dance. They didn't win their conference, but I forgot the team that won their conference. They're not D1 eligible because they're still making the transition to D1. So they got in because of that, and then pulled it off. I think, bro, that clip of the coach calling his shot before the game and then them winning the game, especially the way that they did, that might go down as one of like the all-time historic wins in NCAA history. In Jersey, it wasn't just FDU. Princeton's in the Sweet 16. They play Friday against Creighton. So
right.
that man, it's crazy. Miami's got a big. I'm gonna be glued to that Miami-Houston game. Both teams have had pretty good years. I live in Austin, so I'm gonna be watching the UT Xavier game as well. And then that UCLA Gonzaga game is definitely gonna be on my radar for Thursday night.
Yeah, definitely. Purdue's coach, man. I don't know how you not have those guys ready to win that game after seeing that message. I feel like there's no way that you see that meshes out there and you don't have those guys ready to go destroy those guys. But obviously, tournament, anything can happen. But yeah, man, big shout out to him, man. That's crazy. When I seen it, I was like, man, if I would have had my team fired up to go get those guys, but they did it. He was right. That's why he's the head coach, man. Shout out to them, man.
Yeah, big shout out for sure. With that being said, man, make sure that you guys are tuned into these March Madness brackets. The Sweet 16 is live. First game, I believe, is Thursday night at 7:15 Eastern. That'll be Arkansas and UConn. UConn, we haven't even been talking about UConn. UConn is back in the Sweet 16. Love to see it. And it's going to be going crazy from here. My bracket fell apart first day. I don't know how yours went, Kay, but I heard that there was 0 perfect brackets after day one.
No, dang, who went down first? I guess that the number 1 seed that went down, really.
Purdue?
Not Purdue. There was another one that got upset. I can't think of them right now. Really hurt my bracket. It wasn't Purdue. There's another one. Who did Princeton upset? What seed is Princeton?
Shoot,
Princeton. I think Princeton upset somebody that messed my bracket up.
They did. Princeton is right. Okay, now I got to pull this back up again. So Princeton is the 15, and these live brackets suck.
Virginia going down was tough, even though I never.
Princeton
had faith
took out
in Virginia.
Missouri in round 2, and they knocked off
They took out
Arizona. Arizona's the 2 seed,
right
in that region.
that messed up my bracket too. But I feel like there was another number 1 seed that went down in the first round. That wasn't just Purdue. I could be wrong. Purdue went down. Houston won.
Kansas
won.
lost
Okay,
to Arkansas, but that was in round 2, not round 1.
Yeah. I think it's the Princeton one, Arizona. My bracket was messed up on the first day. Virginia going down was tough. That actually happened in Orlando, so. Yeah, man. That's the NCAA tournament for you. Even on the women's side, Stanford, who's been in the Final Four, I think like the last 4 years.
Knocked off.
They won it like 2 years ago. I think they got knocked off, so that was kind of unbelievable. So NCAA, man, it's March Madness, man. Y'all tune in, man. Good basketball on both sides, men's and women's.
It's the best month of the year. Thank you guys for tuning in again, man. Obviously a short show, not too much going on. We're gearing up though. We are definitely gearing up. More March Madness talk to come as we come into next week. We'll have a little more clarity on the NBA playoffs. Maybe some news even about the Jets' future quarterback and where some other free agents may lie. With that being said, man, it's Rich, it's Kayson, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.